Chapter 1. The Nature of the Mind According to Buddhism. What is the mind? That is the question that great masters, philosophers, and seekers of truth have asked themselves for centuries. For the Buddha, the mind is the source of both suffering and liberation. In Buddhism, the term used for the mind is citta or consciousness, a word that encompasses not only the thinking and reasoning part of us, but also the part that feels, perceives, and reacts to every experience we have. The mind is not a fixed entity, but a dynamic and continuously changing process. And to master our thoughts, we must first understand how this process works. The changing nature of the mind. Imagine the mind as a vast, clear sky. There are days when that sky is perfectly blue. The sun shines and everything seems clear. Those are the days when we feel at peace, when the mind seems to be in harmony with the world. But there are also days when the sky is covered by dark clouds, storms, and thunder. These are the moments when the mind is flooded with anxiety, negative thoughts, and fear. The fascinating thing about this metaphor is that, despite the changing weather, the sky remains the sky. The clouds, no matter how dense and dark, do not change the nature of the sky. They only temporarily obscure it. And so, our negative emotions and thoughts do not change the fundamental nature of our mind. They only cover it for a time. When we learn to observe those thoughts, like someone watching clouds drift by, we can rediscover the clarity that has always been there. The Buddha taught that the mind or citta is fundamentally a flow, never the same from one moment to the next. This flow is like a river that continuously runs, carrying leaves, dry branches, and all kinds of objects. Sometimes that river is calm and flowing, but at other times it swirls violently, chaotic, carrying everything in its path. But the river, despite its changes, remains the river. Likewise, the mind changes constantly, but in essence, it remains a vast and deep space that can contain both calm and agitation. This perspective invites us to view our mental states differently. We are not permanently bound to a state of happiness or sadness, anxiety or peace. Everything, absolutely everything, is constantly changing. And when we begin to observe the mind from this perspective, we realize that, like the sky, there is always a quiet space behind the storms of thought. The definition of thought in Buddhism. The Buddha taught in the Desapego that mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought. This emphasizes that thought is the foundation that shapes our reality and our experience of suffering or happiness. Karmic volition. Thought forms Ngip, mental karma, which is one of the three types of karma: body, speech, mind. Although mental karma does not directly cause harm like action or speech, it is the most important seed. Wholesome thoughts create good consequences. Unwholesome thoughts create bad consequences. Heavy bad karma. The root of suffering. Buddhism points out that most human suffering originates from thinking, dualistic distinction, speculation, and clinging to the self, subjective self-existence, creating false perceptions, illusions, delusions about the impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self nature of all phenomena. Transformation. The goal of the Buddhist practitioner is to observe and master thought to transform afflictions. Letting go of thought. To reach nirvana, the ultimate reality, one must shed all thinking and be left only with clear, empty awareness. In the seeing, there will be only the seeing. In summary, in Buddhism, thought is not just a psychological process, but a force that creates karma and determines the liberation of sentient beings. Thoughts as waves. Now imagine you are standing by an endless ocean. In front of you, the ocean waves constantly surge and crash on the shore. Some are tiny, almost imperceptible, while others are huge, powerful, and carry everything in their path. Each of those waves is a thought. They can be thoughts of joy, sadness, anxiety, hope. Some are gentle and pleasant, like a cool summer breeze, and others are harsh and cold, like a storm in the open sea. But the commonality of all is that, like waves, they are not permanent. The waves do not stand still. None is fixed in the same place. All of them rise, reach a peak, and then return to the ocean. where they originated. Our thoughts also operate in a similar way. Sometimes a thought of fear or anxiety seems overwhelming, as if it will stay forever. But if we observe closely, we see that eventually that thought also dissolves like a wave returning to its source. This is what the Buddha taught very clearly. Thoughts are ephemeral. They change, they transform, and they do not have absolute power over us unless we give them that power. There is an ancient Buddhist saying that the mind creates the world. This means that what determines how we feel is not what happens externally, but how we interpret those experiences. If we cling to a negative thought, we feed it, we give it power, and that wave will become bigger and stronger. But if we learn to observe it, to let it flow without trying to change it, we realize that ultimately every wave returns to the ocean. This leads us to a central concept in the Buddha's teachings, anicca, impermanence. In Buddhism, we are taught that everything, absolutely everything, is impermanent. This includes not only our external experiences such as material things and the situations we go through, but also our internal experiences, our thoughts, feelings, and mental states. Impermanence is a fundamental truth of existence. The Buddha told us that one of the biggest mistakes we make is believing that things will always be the same. We think that a good situation will last forever, and when it ends, we suffer, or we think that a bad moment will never end, and that makes us despair. But when we truly understand impermanence, we stop clinging. We understand that everything that rises will eventually fall, and everything that hurts will eventually stop hurting. Imagine you are going through a difficult time. Perhaps you have lost an important person or are facing a change that you did not expect. In those moments, the mind is flooded with thoughts of sadness, pain, and loss. But the Buddha invites us to see that, just as a storm never lasts forever, those thoughts will not last forever either. Recognizing impermanence gives us the capacity for patience, to know that even though we are currently going through a dark night, the dawn always comes. The story of the Buddha and the agitated disciple. The Buddha often taught through stories, using simple examples to convey the deepest truths about the mind and human life. One of these stories is particularly revealing when it comes to understanding the nature of the mind and how we can find stillness amidst agitation. This story shows us how the Buddha dealt with a man who insulted him with words, revealing a lesson that has endured for centuries. It all began in a small village on the outskirts of Magadha, where the Buddha had arrived to share his teachings. People gathered around him, captivated by his serene presence and the way he spoke about the mind, suffering, and liberation. The villagers, tired of their own problems and worries, felt relieved to hear the words of the Buddha, who spoke to them about how to find peace amidst daily life. However, among the crowd was a man whose heart was filled with animosity. This man, who had experienced many difficulties in life, did not believe that anyone could achieve the peace that the Buddha was talking about. He had heard rumors about this master, about how his mind was said to be as serene as a still lake, that he was unaffected by anger or hatred. But for him, that was impossible. He could not understand how a person could face life without being swept away by the storm of emotions. One day, the man decided he would test the Buddha. He wanted to prove to everyone that he was just a fraud, that he was not as imperturbable as rumored. So, filled with fury, he pushed through the crowd until he stood before the Buddha, who was sitting under a tree surrounded by people who were listening intently. Without warning, he began to shout, insulting him with the bitterest words he knew, trying to provoke him, to make him lose his composure. The man said, "Who do you think you are? You are no better than anyone here. You are just a deceiver who tricks others with your flowery words." The insults fell like stones, heavy and sharp, and those watching were astonished. They couldn't believe anyone dared to speak to the Buddha like that. Some whispered among themselves, waiting to see how the master would respond to such aggression. However, the Buddha did not react. As the man expected, instead of getting angry, raising his voice, or responding to the insults, he simply looked at him with a serene smile. His eyes, full of compassion, showed no trace of irritation. He maintained a calm demeanor, as if the man's words were merely the wind softly blowing around him. And that reaction surprised not only the crowd, but also the man, who felt even more frustrated. How could a person maintain such tranquility in the face of such great hostility? The man, growing angrier, continued to shout for a long time, as if his goal was to exhaust the Buddha's patience. His shouting echoed through the square, but over time, his voice began to fade until he finally ran out of breath. The insults had dried up, and the anger that had built up inside him for so long began to dissipate, leaving him exhausted. He stood in silence, panting, looking at the Buddha, waiting for a reaction that never came. It was then that the Buddha, still with that serene smile, asked him a question that completely changed the man's perspective. He said, "Good man, when a person receives guests at their home, they often offer food and drink. Is that not so?" The man, surprised by the unexpected question, replied, "Yes, of course, that is the right thing to do. When someone comes to my house, I offer them food and water as a sign of hospitality." The Buddha nodded gently and continued, "And if those guests decide not to accept what you offer, to whom do that food and drink belong?" The man, confused but curious to know what the Buddha meant, thought for a moment and replied, "Well, if they don't accept what I offer, then the food and drink remain mine. No one else takes them." The Buddha looked him directly in the eyes and, with infinite calm, said, "In the same way, good man, I do not accept your insults, your anger, or your hurtful words. If I do not accept them, then they remain with you. I choose not to receive what you have offered, and thus they do not affect me." Right then, a profound silence enveloped the square. The Buddha's words resonated in the minds of everyone present, especially the man who had confronted him. Hearing these words, the man felt something change inside him. It felt as if a burden had been lifted from his heart. He suddenly understood that the anger and hatred he carried within him were not hurting the Buddha but were hurting himself. He realized that all the fury accumulated over the years, all that resentment, was a poison that was only destroying him. And in that moment, for the first time in a long time, he felt a deep regret for his behavior. With tears in his eyes, the man knelt before the Buddha and said, "Venerable Sir, forgive me for my words. I have lived in the shadow of anger for so long that I could not see the truth. But today, thanks to your teaching, I feel I have understood something essential." The Buddha looked at him with compassion and replied, "Anger is like a burning coal that a person holds with the intention of throwing it at another. But in the end, the one who gets burned is oneself. If you have understood this, then you have taken a great step toward peace." And so, on that day, the man who had arrived with hatred and resentment became a disciple of the Buddha, ready to leave behind the burden of anger and seek inner peace. For all those who witnessed that moment, the lesson was clear. The words and actions of others only have the power to hurt us if we give them that power. If we do not accept the negativity thrown at us, that negativity returns to the one who offered it. This story teaches us that, like the Buddha, we can choose not to receive the hostility of others. We can maintain calm amidst the storm, because true power lies not in defeating the other person, but in not allowing ourselves to be swept away by their anger. By practicing patience and non-attachment, we discover that there is a place of peace within us that no one can take away. And this is the essential nature of the mind according to the teachings of the Buddha. The mind is like a vast ocean, and thoughts and emotions are like the waves that come and go. In the profound teaching of the Buddha, thought or mind intention, Citta, is not just a simple psychological process but the most powerful force, determining the destiny and lived experience of every individual. Buddhism places thought at the center, regarding it as the leader of all actions, and speech the deepest source of all suffering and all liberation. The Buddha affirmed the supreme role of mind intention in his very first teachings, recorded in the Dhammapada. Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought. If with an impure mind one speaks or acts, suffering follows him, If with a pure mind one speaks or acts, happiness follows him. This verse completely summarizes the philosophy of Yngip, mental karma. Karma generated by thought. Mental karma is seen as the seed, while actions and words are merely the sprouting and manifestation of that seed. All good and evil originate from an intention, from which we construct our own world of experience. However, thought itself is also the shackles that bind sentient beings to the cycle of samsara. Most human suffering does not come from external circumstances, but from how we think about those external circumstances. The mind is constantly influenced by the three poison, tham, sân, si. Greed, tam, causes us to incessantly crave and seek to possess. Hatred, san, causes us to react negatively and destructively. And delusion, si, causes us to cling to the illusion of a permanent and independent self. Na. This erroneous clinging, the dualistic distinction between self and other, between liking and disliking, creates countless afflictions, causing us to suffer when facing the laws of impermanence, anicca, and non-self, anatta, in all phenomena. Therefore, the ultimate goal of the Buddhist path is to observe and master mind intention. The practice of right mindfulness and meditation aims to soothe these discursive thoughts, distinctions, and attachments. When the mind is disciplined, becoming bright, empty, and no longer clinging to the objects of thought, that is the state of purity, the door leading to nirvana, the cessation of all suffering in the cycle of existence. In short, in Buddhism, thought is not a fixed entity, but a flow of karmic energy. By changing the content of this flow, from unwholesome to wholesome, from clinging to letting go, every sentient being has the power to liberate themselves from the shackles of suffering created by their own mind. If thought is the seed of karma, then speech is the powerful sprout, easily manifesting and directly impacting the world around us. In Buddhism, hurtful speech, or AC cow, unwholesome speech, is not just a lack of politeness but a serious type of cow Yngip bat tien, unwholesome verbal karma, possessing great destructive power over peace and individual happiness. Buddhist teachings clearly define 4 types of harmful speech, called tu AC cow, the 4 vices of speech, which all practitioners must strive to abandon, as they all originate from the 3 poisons in the mind. First is vong go, false speech/lying. This is speech that harms the foundation of all relationships. Trust. Lying, whether big or small, whether for personal gain, tam, or to avoid responsibility, si, erodes credibility and creates suspicion. When speech is no longer truthful, the social bond is broken, leading to unstable consequences and suffering for both the speaker and the listener. Second is slander/divisive speech. This is divisive, backbiting language aimed at causing resentment and discord between people. Slander often arises from envy, hatred, or the desire to see others harmed. Its harm is immense, potentially leading to the breakup of families, the division of groups, and the sowing of seeds of hatred, causing society and the community to become chaotic. Third is the true harsh speech, which is crude, vulgar, cursing, scolding, or insulting others. This type of speech directly emanates from a burning hatred, sanhan. Harsh words are like poisoned arrows, penetrating and causing deep spiritual harm to the listener. Even though physical wounds may heal, the damage caused by harsh words can linger, creating karmic enmity, causing the speaker to suffer isolation and negative reactions. Finally is frivolous/vain speech. These are superficial, gossipy, baseless rumors, often stemming from delusion, simi, and a lack of direction. Although not directly malicious, vain speech agitates the mind, wastes time, and easily leads to indirect slander and irresponsibility. According to the law of karma, verbal karma is heavy and explicit karma. The one who sows hurtful words will receive corresponding consequences. In this life, being shunned by others, lacking respect, constantly facing discord. In future lives, potentially being reborn in suffering realms or having to hear unpleasant sounds. Therefore, the Buddhist path advises practitioners to practice Chan Go, Right speech. Speech that is truthful, harmonious, gentle, and beneficial. Controlling speech is controlling mind intention, transforming the seeds of greed, hatred, and delusion into compassion and wisdom. Loving, gentle speech not only brings peace to the listener, but also accrues the merit of harmony for the speaker themselves. The path of transformation, from unwholesome speech to right speech and liberation. If thought and speech are the source of suffering karma, Buddhism also offers a clear path to transform these elements, leading sentient beings out of the shackles of suffering. That path is the practice of right mindfulness towards mind intention and the cultivation of right speech towards speech, introducing the energy of compassion and wisdom into daily life. The foundation of transformation, mastering mind intention, right mindfulness, and right thought. All hurtful words originate from unwholesome mind intention, greed, hatred, delusion. Therefore, transformation must begin at the root thought. The practitioner needs to practice right mindfulness, Su-Ten-Tuk awareness, to always clearly recognize the intentions arising in the mind without letting them lead freely. When an intention of hatred, envy, or deceit has just arisen, right mindfulness helps us recognize it immediately before it can turn into action. Harsh speech. Next is right thought directed towards non-attachment, non-hatred, and non-harming. Instead of nourishing negative thoughts, the practitioner focuses on contemplating the nature of impermanence, Vo Thuong, and non-self, Vo Na, of all phenomena. When it is clearly seen that all things change and there is no fixed self to cling to or protect, the clinging and hatred will gradually subside, and the speech produced will become gentle, truthful, and beneficial. The manifestation of transformation, practicing right speech. The transformation of mental karma creates the condition for the practice of right speech, an essential component of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right speech is not merely the avoidance of the four vices of speech, but the conscious, compassionate, and constructive action of replacing them. Right speech is defined by four criteria: truthful, absolutely no lying or distorting the truth, maintaining credibility and trust; harmonious, speaking words of reconciliation, connection, not causing division or backbiting; gentle, speaking words that are pleasant, polite, not vulgar or malicious; beneficial, speaking words that are meaningful, bringing value or enlightenment to others, avoiding vain talk. In the context of conflict or when provoked, if we cannot utter a word that meets all four criteria, the Buddha taught that keeping silent is the highest practice of discipline, preventing the creation of unwholesome karma. The power of loving speech. Right speech leads to the practice of loving speech, one of the four means of unification, a method of attracting and helping sentient beings. Loving speech is not only truthful and beneficial but must also be spoken with compassion, respect, and at the right time. When speech is transformed, it becomes a tool for creating happiness. Loving words can soothe pain, heal ruptures, and plant wholesome seeds in the souls of others. This practice of transformation not only reduces the karmic consequences of suffering in the future, but also immediately brings peace, harmony, and respect into the practitioner's present life. That is the path from the darkness of unwholesome speech to the light of right speech and liberation. In the entire Buddhist teaching, mind intention, thought, and verbal karma, speech, play a dual role. They are both the source of all cyclic suffering, samsara, and the supreme tool for achieving enlightenment and liberation. Understanding and mastering these two factors is the core focus of all spiritual practice. Mind intention is honored by the Buddha as the leader and creator of reality. All actions and speech are reflections of the intentions arising in the mind. When the mind is dominated by greed, hatred, and delusion, it creates thoughts that cling to the temporary self and react negatively to the impermanence of life. These thoughts are the seeds that sow karma of suffering. The foundation of liberation is the practice of right mindfulness, observing to see clearly the impermanent, empty nature of all intentions, thereby gradually purifying the mind consciousness. From unwholesome mind intention, hurtful speech is born, creating heavy verbal karma. Buddhism points out that 2ac cow, false speech, slander, harsh speech, vain talk, are the four most dangerous manifestations of speech, capable of destroying trust, causing division, creating enmity, and agitating the mind. Harsh words, directly stemming from anger, are likened to a piercing arrow, leaving a deeper wound than physical harm, while also leading the speaker to consequences of discord and isolation in this life and suffering realms in the future. However, Buddhism does not stop at pointing out faults, but also opens up a powerful path of transformation through right speech. Right speech is the replacement of the four vices of speech with speech that is truthful, harmonious, gentle, and beneficial. The practice of right speech requires persistent effort, built upon the firm foundation of controlling and purifying mind intention, right thought. When the mind is disciplined, speech will naturally transform into loving speech, a tool for healing, building, and cultivating merit. In summary, the spiritual journey in Buddhism is a continuous process of contemplating mind intention to master mental karma and caring for speech to create wholesome verbal karma. The harmony between a pure mind and loving speech is the key to escaping the cycle of suffering, achieving inner peace, and establishing a peaceful, happy life in this continuous world. Our speech and thoughts ultimately are the door leading to nirvana or samsara. We are not those waves. We are the ocean that contains them. When we understand this, we discover that we can find peace amidst any situation, no matter how difficult the circumstances. Learning to observe the mind. What the disciple discovered is what all of us can experience. The practice of observing the mind is a fundamental pillar on the Buddhist path. It is called Chan Neem mindfulness, which means complete awareness. Being aware of our thoughts without identifying with them is like building a house on the bank of that river of mind. From there, we can observe thoughts passing by, like someone watching the flow of a river without having to jump in. To apply this in practice, we can start with something very simple: the breath. The breath is like an anchor that keeps us connected to the present. When we feel thoughts are carrying us away, we can take a moment to focus on the breath. We inhale deeply, feeling the air enter the nose, filling the lungs, and then exhale slowly, feeling the air leave the body. When we do this, the thoughts are still there, but they no longer carry us away in the same way. The Buddha taught that the mind can be like a restless child, constantly running from place to place. If we try to use force to stop that child, it will probably resist even more strongly. But if we observe it with patience, if we give it space to move, it will eventually calm down on its own. In the same way, if we try to force the mind to be silent, we will encounter resistance. But if we learn to observe it with patience and compassion, we will discover that the mind can calm down by itself. This process of observing the mind without judgment is like wiping a dirty window pane. At first, we may not be able to see clearly through the glass because it is full of stains and dust, our worries, fears, and desires. But with every conscious breath, with every moment of mindfulness, we wipe the glass a little clean, and gradually we begin to see reality more clearly, as if we are seeing the world for the first time. One of the deepest teachings of the Buddha is, we are not our thoughts. Although the mind produces all kinds of thoughts, positive and negative, we are something more than those thoughts. We are the space where those thoughts occur. The Buddha said that when we can detach ourselves from the mind and become the observer, it is like waking up from a dream. In that state of observation, we realize that we do not have to control every thought because they are all just passing guests. Being the observer of the mind does not mean ignoring what we think or feel. On the contrary, it means allowing ourselves to feel fully, but without getting stuck in those emotions. If a sad thought comes, we can recognize it. Ah, here is sadness. And instead of fighting it, we simply observe it like someone watching a dark cloud pass across the sky, and eventually, that cloud will dissolve and the blue sky will reappear. This does not mean it is easy. There are times when the waves of thought are so strong that it seems impossible not to be swept away by them. And it is precisely in those moments that the practice of mindfulness becomes most valuable. This is not a process that happens in a day or a week. It is a path that is walked step by step, like a person crossing a long bridge, advancing a little each day. But every step we take towards that observation, towards that detachment from our thoughts, brings us closer to inner freedom. The Buddha reminds us that, just as the waves cannot destroy the ocean, our thoughts cannot change the nature of the mind. The calmness is always there, waiting for us to allow ourselves to see it. And when we can see the mind clearly, when we understand that thoughts are merely fleeting waves, we find a peace that is not dependent on what happens around us. It is a peace born from within, that remains even when life gets tough. Conclusion: understanding the nature of the mind and the impermanence of thought is the first step to mastering our thoughts. The Buddha invites us to see the mind as an ocean, a river, a sky, so that we understand that its essence is vastness, and not the storms that sometimes cover it. And by learning to observe our thoughts without identifying with them, we discover that peace is not the absence of waves, but the ability to flow with them without losing our balance. Join me in the next part of this journey, where we will delve deeper into the practice of mindfulness and how it can help us calm the restless mind, develop true serenity, and transform life from within. If up to this point you feel that these teachings are providing value to you, that they are helping you better understand your mind and find a little more peace in your life, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. By doing so, you won't miss any more content like this, where we explore the wisdom of the Buddha and how to apply it to our daily lives. Hit the notification bell and be the first to discover new practices and reflections that will help you on your path to a more conscious and fulfilling life. Thank you for being here and for being part of this community of growth and wisdom. Chapter 2. Mindfulness to observe the mind. Now that we have understood that the mind is like a constantly moving ocean, it is time to delve into one of the most powerful tools for learning to observe that ocean: mindfulness. Definition of mindfulness. According to religious studies methodology in the Buddha's system of liberation teachings, right mindfulness, Sati, holds a central position, honored as an indispensable factor, the seventh component, of the Noble Eightfold Path. Mindfulness is not just a meditation technique, but a way of conscious living that helps humans reconnect with reality in the most authentic way, thereby eliminating suffering. Mindfulness is defined as the clear and continuous noting and recognition of what is happening in the present moment, with an attitude of non-judgment and non-reaction. The term encompasses two core elements: right, correct, not erroneous, and remembering, paying attention. Right mindfulness is vigilant attention, fully focused on the objects occurring right here and now, without the mind being pulled back to the regrets of the past or the worries of the future. The role of mindfulness is especially emphasized by the Buddha in the Satipaṭṭhāna, the discourse on the foundations of mindfulness, the foundational scripture for insight meditation. Accordingly, mindfulness is practiced on four main objects to encompass our entire life experience: body activities and bodily sensations like breath, feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral sensations; mind, mental states like greed, hatred, delusion, or awareness; and mental objects of the mind, psychological and physical phenomena. The continuous, non-stop contemplation of these four areas will gradually expose the true nature of all phenomena. The power of mindfulness lies in the non-judgmental attitude. When we observe an angry thought or a painful feeling without labeling it as good or bad, without trying to chase it away or cling to it, the mind maintains neutrality, equanimity, or this pure observation prevents unwholesome mental karma from arising. Without mindfulness, when an unpleasant feeling appears, we will immediately react with anger or avoidance, thereby creating bad karma. Conversely, mindfulness helps us see clearly that feelings and thoughts are merely impermanent phenomena. They come and go, thus preventing us from being controlled and bound by them. Through continuously maintaining awareness in the present, mindfulness leads to the development of wisdom. When profoundly contemplating the body, feelings, mind, and mental objects, the practitioner directly perceives the three universal characteristics of reality: impermanence, everything changes; suffering/unsatisfactoriness, the nature of clinging is. Suffering and non-self, there is no fixed self. Seeing this nature clearly breaks the illusion and clinging, which is the breakthrough leading to liberation from the cycle of suffering. In summary, mindfulness is not just a method of quiet meditation but a way of life committed to truth. It is the key to mastering mind intention, transforming negative habits into awareness and compassion, thereby bringing profound peace and liberation in the present life. This 1,000-year-old practice has the power to transform, and its simplicity hides a great depth. Mindfulness invites us to be present, to be conscious of every moment without getting stuck in it. It is like suddenly being able to give our mind space to breathe, a pause amidst the whirlwind of thoughts. Often, when we think of mindfulness, we imagine someone sitting cross-legged, eyes closed, and back straight, focusing on their breath. And although meditation is a fundamental part of the practice, mindfulness goes beyond those moments of stillness. It is about learning to live every moment with awareness, from the sensation of hot water when washing dishes to the experience of a sip of coffee. In the morning, each of these moments can be an opportunity to practice mindfulness, to return to the reality of the here and now. But why is learning to observe the present so important for mastering our minds? Because mindfulness teaches us to observe the mind without judgment. Imagine for a moment that the mind is a vast sky and every thought is a cloud passing across that sky. Most of us, when we see a dark cloud, we run to it and try to push it out of the sky. We tell ourselves, I don't want to feel this. I have to stop thinking like that. And without realizing it, we exhaust ourselves fighting against every cloud. Mindfulness invites us to change that approach. Here is this cloud. I'm going to watch it pass. And when we stop fighting with our thoughts, we discover that they lose their power on their own. They dissipate into the air. This leads us to one of the most common practices in mindfulness, which is observing the breath. The breath is the anchor that connects us to the present. By observing it, we are training our mind to stop running toward the future or returning to the past and to remain in the only moment we truly have. This moment. Imagine you are having a busy day with 1,000 things to do, and suddenly the mind is flooded with anxious thoughts. I won't finish on time. I have to do this and that. The breath can be a sanctuary you return to when things get complicated. If you take a moment to breathe deeply, feeling the air enter and leave your lungs, that simple act can be a reminder that, right in this moment, you are okay. This moment of pause is a breath of relief amidst the chaos, a moment where the mind can calm down, even for a brief second. And in that quiet space, we can remember that we are greater than our thoughts, that thoughts come and go, but we, our essence, are always there to observe. Over time, this practice allows us to develop a kind of inner witness, just as observing the breath develops the ability to observe our thoughts and emotions from a broader perspective. Instead of finding ourselves trapped in a thought of fear or anxiety, we learn to look at it from a safe distance, as if watching a movie. The Buddha taught us that mindfulness is like a lighthouse in the darkness, illuminating the corners of our mind, showing us what is present without us having to immediately judge or change it. Now we will talk about how this practice also helps us observe our emotions, because, like thoughts, emotions can be very intense. Maybe one day you wake up feeling sad for no apparent reason. That sadness is like a wave that hits and seems to cover everything. Without the practice of mindfulness, that wave would sweep us away, making us feel powerless, out of control. But mindfulness invites us to change our relationship with that emotion. Instead of fighting, we learn to say, here is sadness. I feel it in my chest like a pressure. And by observing it, we realize that sadness has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It does not last forever, but, like the waves, eventually returns to the ocean of the mind. Mindfulness allows us to see every emotion as a passing guest. This does not mean that we stop feeling or become insensitive. On the contrary, it means that we can allow ourselves to feel fully, but without getting stuck in the story that comes with that emotion. In other words, if I feel fear, I can recognize and feel it, but I don't need to create a story that says, This is going to fail. I'll never get over it. I simply feel the fear, observe it, and let it take its natural course. It is like opening the door to a guest, allowing them to enter, but knowing that eventually they will leave. And this brings us to one of the most important teachings of the Buddha about the mind: non-reaction. Often, when something hurts or bothers us, we react immediately. If someone criticizes us, we feel hurt and respond with anger. If something scares us, we look for a way to run away or avoid it. But the Buddha invites us to take a step back, to observe that reaction before acting. Mindfulness gives us the opportunity to see the impulse before turning it into action. It is like suddenly having control over an internal switch. We can decide whether we want to turn it on or keep it off. This does not mean that we stop being human, stop feeling. It means that we learn to choose our response instead of being slaves to our impulses. Imagine one day someone says something hurtful to you. Without the practice of mindfulness, your reaction might be immediate, responding to the criticism, getting angry, feeling terrible. But with mindfulness, you can pause for a moment, observe how that comment makes you feel, notice the impulse to respond with anger, and then decide what to do. Perhaps you choose to say nothing, perhaps you choose to respond more calmly. That choice, that space you create between the stimulus and the response, is what the Buddha taught us is the path to true freedom. Mindfulness is like a muscle that we need to train. At first, it can be difficult because we are used to being carried away by the flow of thoughts and emotions. But with every conscious breath, with every moment of presence, we are strengthening our ability to be here and now. And gradually, the mind begins to find more peace, more clarity. We start to see life with new eyes, as if every moment is a new opportunity to experience the richness of the present. This leads us to another fascinating aspect of mindfulness, which is the ability to transform our daily experiences. It is not just about meditating for a few minutes each day, but about bringing that attention to everything we do. For example, when we eat, instead of swallowing the food while thinking about 1,000 things, we can savor each bite, feeling the texture, the flavor, the aroma. In this way, the act of eating becomes a meditation, a moment of connection with the present. And the same thing happens when we walk, when we talk to someone, when we simply sit in silence. Mindfulness invites us to rediscover the beauty of the ordinary, to find the magic in the simplest things, and by doing so, our mind stops running after what is coming or getting stuck in what has passed, to start enjoying the only place we are truly living. This moment, the here and now, because ultimately what the Buddha taught us is that true peace is not found outside, but inside us, in the way we see the world, in the way we live every moment. Chapter 3. The Power of Letting Go and Non-Identification with Thought. Now that we have explored mindfulness and how it helps us observe the mind, it is time to delve into an important concept in the Buddha's teachings. Letting go, Desapego/non-attachment, and non-identification with thought. No identification. This takes us one step further in the process of learning to master the mind, because it is not just about observing thoughts, but about understanding that we are not those thoughts. It is a subtle difference, but one that can completely transform our relationship with the mind. We are going to talk about how we often identify with every thought that crosses the mind. Many times, when a negative thought appears, such as "I am not good enough" or "I always fail," we take it as an absolute truth. We tell ourselves, "This is who I am." And when we do this, we tie ourselves to that thought, carrying it as a burden, allowing it to define how we feel and act. But the Buddha taught us that the mind is like a river and our thoughts are like leaves floating on the water. We are not those leaves. We are the space through which they flow. The Buddha told us that the self, the idea of a fixed, separate, and eternal I, is an illusion, Vietnamese dong. But he did not just say it in a philosophical way, but as an invitation to directly observe our own experience. If you take a moment to look inward, can you find that eternal I, the one that is always the same? If you look at your thoughts, you will realize that they change constantly. And the same thing happens with your emotions. Sometimes you feel happy, sometimes sad, sometimes peaceful, sometimes angry. If you were those thoughts and feelings, you would also change from moment to moment like a weather vane spinning in the wind. The Buddha invites us to realize that we are not that incessant flow of thoughts and emotions. We are like the sky observing the clouds pass by, but not being affected by them. The practice of letting go is, therefore, learning to stop identifying with every thought that crosses the mind. And this is a great liberation because it allows us to stop carrying the stories we tell ourselves, stories that are sometimes very limiting. Imagine you have thought for years that you cannot do something. There is always a thought that says you are not good enough, and every time it appears, you believe it, you give it power, and that determines what you do and what you don't do. But now imagine you start observing that thought as if it were just a cloud passing across the sky. You tell yourself, there it is again. And suddenly you realize that even though the thought is present, you don't have to act on it. It is just a thought, not a truth. And when you stop identifying with it, you begin to discover a space of freedom. You are no longer a prisoner of your own ideas, but an observer of that mental process. This leads us to something very powerful. Letting go does not mean that you stop having thoughts, but that you stop being controlled by them. It is learning to see your thoughts without letting them define you. The Buddha explained this simply through an analogy. If someone throws a burning coal at you, you can choose to hold it in your hand or let it fall to the ground. Negative thoughts, painful thoughts, are like that coal. If you hold them, they will burn you. But if you learn to let go, to let them pass, you will discover that you don't have to burn yourself with them. Letting go also helps us face difficult moments in life with greater resilience. When something bad happens to us, the mind's natural tendency is to hold on to the suffering, repeating it over and over like someone constantly scratching a wound that should already be healing. For example, if someone insults us, we spend hours, days, even years recalling that insult, reliving it in the mind. It is as if the mind is a machine that keeps playing the same movie over and over. And every time we watch it, we feel the same pain, the same anger. But when we practice letting go, we realize that we don't have to watch that movie again and again. We can let it go, change the channel, choose a different perspective on life. And this does not mean that we ignore what hurts us, but that we learn not to cling to that pain, recognizing that it is part of the human experience, but it does not define who we are. In this way, letting go becomes a form of self-care, a way to protect ourselves from ourselves. Now, this is not easy. The mind has a natural tendency to cling to everything, to create stories, but every time we practice letting go, it is as if we are telling our mind, okay, I know you are there, but I don't need you to tell me how I should feel. And over time, that practice becomes a habit. Every time a negative thought appears, we recognize it, see it, but don't let ourselves be carried away by it. It is like we are training the mind to let go, to not cling, to be a little lighter. This leads us to talk about self-compassion because letting go does not mean being harsh with our thoughts or feelings. It is not about telling ourselves, you shouldn't think that way or stop feeling that. On the contrary, letting go is based on the understanding that every thought, every emotion is part of the human experience. And when we treat ourselves with compassion, when we tell ourselves, it's normal to think like this sometimes, to feel this way sometimes, we create a space of acceptance within us. Compassion helps us stop fighting with the mind, and when we do that, the mind begins to relax, to stop fighting with itself. It's like when a child is crying, and instead of telling them to be quiet, we hug them and say, it's okay, I'm here. The mind also needs that kind of embrace, that understanding. And when it feels understood, when it doesn't have to fight with itself, it is much easier to let things go. Letting go and compassion are two sides of the same coin. When we learn not to cling to our thoughts, we also learn to be more compassionate with ourselves, accepting who we are. And that acceptance allows us to be more flexible, more open, more capable of adapting to life's changes. Remember, the goal is not to eliminate thoughts, but to learn to live with them in a way that does not hurt us. The Buddha taught us that by letting go of identification with the mind, we find a place of peace that has always been there, a stillness that does not depend on what happens externally. And that is the true power of letting go, discovering that true freedom lies within us, in how we choose to perceive and react to our thoughts and emotions. Chapter 4. Strengthening the mind with daily meditation. Definition of meditation. In the teachings of the Buddha, meditation is considered one of the core practical methods, a bridge connecting the mundane life full of afflictions to a state of mental tranquility and liberating wisdom. Meditation is not merely sitting quietly but an entire process of consciously and continuously training the mind, Tom to tap, aiming to achieve deep concentration and the ability to penetrate the nature of all phenomena. Meditation is categorized into two main methods, which are complementary in purpose: calmness meditation, samatha, and insight meditation, vipassana. Calmness meditation, samatha, meaning to calm or to stabilize, focuses on developing concentration power, din luk. The goal of samatha is to bring the mind into a state of solid abiding, undisturbed by external discursive or scattered thoughts. By focusing the intention on a single object like the breath, a colored circle kasina, or a Buddha recitation phrase, the practitioner gradually suppresses crude afflictions, calming the flow of thoughts. This process leads to the attainment of the dhyana states of deep psychological bliss and stillness. However, samatha only serves to suppress and temporarily halt afflictions. It brings peace but is not sufficient to uproot the source of greed, hatred, and delusion. This is where the role of insight meditation, vipassana, becomes paramount. Vipassana, meaning to see clearly or to penetrate, is the method aimed at developing wisdom, Tuesday Jiak. If samatha helps clean the lake of the mind, vipassana helps see through the nature of that lake. Vipassana is practiced based on mindfulness, non-judgmental awareness towards the phenomena occurring in the present moment. Instead of fixedly concentrating on one subject, the practitioner observes and notes the continuous arising, abiding, and passing away, true diet of the objects belonging to the four foundations of mindfulness: body, feelings, mind, mental objects. Through profound contemplation, the practitioner directly perceives the three universal characteristics of reality: tam tuong impermanence, everything changes; suffering/unsatisfactoriness, the nature of clinging is suffering; and non-self, there is no fixed entity. This very penetration is wisdom, Tuesday Jiak, helping to cut off the roots of greed. Because one sees impermanence, there is no more desire to cling, and delusion because one sees non-self, there is no more clinging to the self. In summary, in Buddhism, meditation is a comprehensive and practical path. Samatha creates a solid foundation of stillness, while vipassana uses that foundation to develop wisdom. The combination of concentration and wisdom is the supreme tool for eliminating all afflictions, leading to the realization of truth and attaining the ultimate goal of nirvana. Now that we have explored the power of letting go and non-identification with thought, it is time to delve into a practice that has been a central pillar of Buddhism for millennia: meditation. But not just any kind of meditation, but a daily, continuous practice that functions as a gym for our minds, strengthening our ability to remain present and not be carried away by the flow of thought. Daily meditation is like a training session, and each session, no matter how brief, becomes an opportunity to refine the mind, to polish the diamond that we all carry within us. But before delving into the different techniques and benefits of daily meditation, let's talk about why this practice is so important and how it has transformed the lives of millions of people. Throughout history, imagine the mind as a deep lake. When the mind is agitated, when we are constantly bombarded by thoughts and emotions, the surface of the lake becomes chaotic and we cannot see what is at the bottom. But when we practice meditation, it is as if the water begins to settle. Gradually, the surface becomes more serene, and we begin to see clearly what lies deep within, our deepest desires, fears, and aspirations. And the most surprising thing is that by observing the mind clearly, we discover that there is nothing to fear. We discover that the peace and stillness we have always sought outside were actually waiting within us. Now we will talk about one of the most fundamental forms of Buddhist meditation, which is samatha or calmness meditation. This practice aims to train the mind to focus on a single point, which can be the breath, a sound, or even a candle flame. When we do this, the mind becomes concentrated and wanders less. Imagine your mind is like a monkey jumping from branch to branch, unable to sit still. Samatha meditation is like teaching that monkey to sit down, breathe, and observe in silence. First, the monkey will resist, it will jump, it will be restless. But if you persevere, if you do it day after day, you will discover that the monkey begins to calm down. It sits next to you and simply observes the environment with you. This type of meditation is not just a concentration exercise, but the starting point for something much deeper. When we can calm the mind, when the surface of that lake becomes so still that we can see the bottom, we are preparing the ground for the practice of vipassana meditation. This meditation, also called insight meditation, invites us to observe the nature of all things exactly as they are, without the filter of our prejudices and conditioning. It's like we are cleaning a mirror that has been dirty for a long time. At first, we only saw stains, distortions, but as we practice, the mirror becomes clearer, and we begin to see ourselves and the world in a completely new way. In Buddhism, there is a saying that the mind is like a wild elephant. If it is not trained, it is powerful but uncontrollable. However, if you train that elephant, if you tame it through daily meditation, that same power becomes an ally. The mind, when trained, when calm, can help you achieve a clarity that previously seemed impossible. It's like having a lamp in the middle of the darkness. Suddenly, you can see the path much more clearly. As we delve into the practice of meditation, we also begin to understand something very important: patience. Because just as a tree does not grow overnight, the results of meditation do not always come immediately. At first, you may feel restless, as if the mind is more active than ever. That is normal. It's like when you start cleaning a house that has been closed for a long time. You initially stir up a lot of dust. But if you continue cleaning, day after day, the dust will eventually settle, and the house becomes a clean and more livable place. The same thing happens with the mind. Meditation is a cleaning process, removing layers of thoughts and worries until we finally begin to feel a clarity that we had never experienced before. This leads us to one of the great benefits of daily meditation: the development of emotional stability. Imagine you are a sailor on a turbulent sea. Without the practice of meditation, every emotional wave that hits you strikes hard and you feel at the mercy of the elements. But meditation is like learning to build an anchor. Although the sea is rough, although there are storms, that anchor keeps you in place, allowing you to face the waves without being swept away by them. Over time, you discover that you don't need a calm sea to feel peaceful, because you have found that peace within you despite the waves. Now we will talk about something fundamental for maintaining a continuous meditation practice: discipline. Sometimes the mind tells us that we don't have time, that we are too busy, that there are more important things to do, but discipline in meditation is not an imposition, but an act of love towards ourselves. Every time you decide to sit down to meditate, even for 5 minutes, you are telling your mind and body that you deserve a moment of peace, that you deserve that space to reconnect with yourself. And that small act of love repeated every day can make a big difference. In your life, think about someone who decides to start running. At first, maybe they can only run for a few minutes before feeling exhausted. But if they persevere day after day, their endurance improves, their body adapts, and one day they discover that they can run long distances without effort. Meditation is very similar. At first, you may feel that 5 minutes is an eternity, that your mind is restless, that thoughts flow incessantly. But if you persist, if you allow yourself to maintain regularity, you will discover that those 5 minutes turn into 10, 15 minutes, and the mind begins to enjoy that moment of stillness. This leads us to one of the most transformative aspects of daily meditation: the ability to see life with new eyes. When the mind is calm, when we learn to observe our thoughts without being carried away by them, we begin to see everything more simply and purely. Imagine you have been wearing dirty glasses for a long time. You got used to seeing the world through those stains, thinking that was reality. But one day you decide to clean those glasses, and suddenly the world becomes clearer, brighter, more colorful. Meditation is like cleaning those glasses of the mind, like removing the filters that prevent us from seeing reality as it is. And the most beautiful thing is that daily meditation connects us with something beyond ourselves. It connects us with the present, with the pure experience of being alive. There is a saying in Buddhism, there is no path to peace. Peace is the path. This means that peace is not something we will find in the future when we achieve this or that. Peace is something we can experience right now, in this moment, through meditation. And by doing that, we discover that the present is the only place where life truly happens. Daily meditation allows us to find that inner peace, but it also teaches us to carry it with us everywhere. First, perhaps we only feel that stillness when sitting quietly, eyes closed. But over time, that stillness begins to accompany us throughout the day, in our interactions with others in difficult moments. It becomes a kind of silent friend whispering in our ear. Remember to breathe. Remember to be here and now. And when life gets complicated, when things don't go as we expected, that inner voice helps us remember that we can always return to the breath, to the stillness, to the inner refuge that we have built with every meditation. Now that we have explored these concepts together, I would love to know your opinion. What do you think of this teaching? How do you apply meditation or mindfulness in your daily life? Leave a comment below and tell me about your experience. Or if you have any questions, I will be happy to read and answer. Sharing your thoughts and experiences can be very helpful for others who are also seeking to master their minds and find more inner peace. I look forward to reading your comments and continuing this conversation with you. Chapter 5. Practical Tips for Mastering the Mind in Daily Life. Now that we have explored the power of daily meditation and how it can change the way we interact with our thoughts, it is time to bring that wisdom into daily life. Because the true measure of a strong and serene mind is not what we achieve sitting in meditation, but how we handle daily challenges, how we react to difficulties, and how we maintain calm amidst the storm. That is why I want to share with you a series of practical tips that can help you maintain a calm and clear mind, even in the most challenging situations. Let's start with a practice that seems simple but has a profound impact. Conscious breathing as a refuge amidst daily chaos. Imagine your mind is like a boat sailing on the open sea. Sometimes the sea is calm and the boat glides smoothly, but other times the waves are so big that it seems the boat could capsize. Conscious breathing is like an anchor that you can drop at any moment to stabilize your boat. When you find yourself in a stressful situation, when you feel thoughts starting to shake like the waves of the sea, take 3 deep, full and conscious breaths. Feel the air enter your nose, how it expands in your abdomen, and then how it slowly leaves. When you do this, it is as if you are telling your body and mind, I am here, I am present, and I can handle this. This simple act of conscious breathing can be a true lifeline in moments of tension. Imagine you are in the middle of an argument and you feel anger starting to overwhelm you. By taking those deep breaths, you give your mind the necessary time to calm down before reacting. It's like you are creating a small space between the stimulus and your response, a space where you can choose how to act instead of being carried away by the impulse. And the best part is that this tool is always available to you, no matter where you are or what you are doing. It is your portable refuge, your moment of peace amidst any situation. Now I want you to think about a second piece of advice that seems contradictory in a world that values speed so much. Do one thing at a time. We live in a time where we are encouraged to multitask, to do many things at once to feel productive. However, the Buddha taught us that true productivity, true peace, comes from placing our full attention on a single task. When we try to do many things at once, our mind is scattered, and although we think we are being more efficient, we are actually draining our mental energy. It's like you have a flashlight and instead of focusing the light on a single point, you scatter it all over the room. The light becomes weak and you can't see anything clearly. Imagine you are washing dishes after dinner. Instead of thinking about your to-do list for tomorrow, try to focus exclusively on the sensation of the warm water on your hands, on the sound of the dishes clashing, on the smell of the soap. This is what Buddhist monks call meditation in action, and it is a way to bring the peace of meditation into every moment of your life. At first, it may be difficult because the mind is used to jumping from thought to thought like a monkey jumping from branch to branch. But if you practice mindfulness in every task, you will discover that even the simplest activities can become a source of satisfaction. And the most surprising thing is that by doing fewer things at once, you become more efficient and end the day with a feeling of fulfillment instead of exhaustion. This leads us to the third piece of advice, which, although it seems simple, has a transformative power. Create time for silence and self-reflection. Today, silence has become a luxury. We are constantly surrounded by noise. News, social media, TV, podcasts. Even when we are alone, we look for a way to fill that void with some kind of stimulation. But the Buddha invites us to rediscover the power of silence. Taking a few minutes each day to be in complete silence, without distractions, is like giving the mind a moment to rest, a time for it to reorganize itself and calm down. At first, you may feel that your mind is flooded with thoughts, that the silence seems noisier than anything else. This is normal. It's like when you open a window in a closed room, the dust starts to rise. But if you allow yourself to remain in that stillness, gradually the mind begins to settle. Think of those moments of silence as if they were a still pond. At first, the water is disturbed by the wind, but when the wind stops, the water becomes increasingly transparent, until you can see the bottom of the lake with total clarity. The mind is the same when we give it a space of stillness. And the most fascinating thing is that when you get used to these moments of self-reflection, you start to listen better to others. Because when the mind is full of noise, we cannot truly hear what others are saying. We only hear our own interpretations, our automatic responses. Silence helps us open up to genuine listening, compassion, and a deeper connection with others. Now I want to talk to you about something we all face in life: how to handle criticism and negative comments. Throughout life, we will always encounter people who criticize us, judge us, and project their negativity onto us. And if we don't know how to handle these situations, those criticisms can easily become a burden that we carry throughout the day. The Buddha taught us to see criticism in a different way, as if every negative comment were a gift that someone offers. If we accept that gift, we take it home and keep it. But if we decide not to accept it, that gift remains with the person who offered it. This does not mean that we should ignore all criticism. Some criticism can be constructive and can help us improve. The key is to learn to filter. Imagine you are in a work meeting and someone makes a comment about a presentation you gave. Instead of letting that comment immediately affect you, take a moment to breathe and ask yourself, does this help me improve? Or is it just a projection of the other person? If you find something useful in the criticism, take it in, use it to improve. If it is not useful, let it go like a passing wind carrying leaves. This practice, when you apply it consistently, allows you to develop a kind of emotional armor that protects you from the opinions of others, allowing you to maintain inner balance regardless of what people say. Now we are going to talk about something that can profoundly change your perspective on life: the practice of gratitude as a daily habit. Often, the mind tends to focus on what is missing, on what we have not achieved, on the things that bother us. It's like the mind has a kind of radar constantly searching for what is wrong, what we lack. But gratitude invites us to change that focus, to train the mind to look for the positive. Every morning, before starting the day, take a moment to think of 3 things you are grateful for. They don't have to be big things. They can be as simple as having a place to stay, the taste of your morning coffee, or the smile of a friend. Gratitude acts as an antidote to complaint, and by practicing it consistently, you begin to notice that even things that previously seemed insignificant have immense value. Perhaps a complicated workday taught you something new, or an argument with a loved one led you to reflect on your own attitude. Ultimately, gratitude not only changes the way we see the world, but it also transforms the way we see ourselves. We begin to realize that, despite the difficulties, there is always something to be grateful for, and that helps us face life with a more open and positive attitude, integrating the teachings for a strong and serene mind. Now that we have gone through this journey towards mastering the mind together, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we have learned and how we can integrate these teachings into our daily lives. Throughout these 2 hours, we have explored some of the deepest concepts of Buddhist wisdom and have discovered practical tools to cultivate a mind that is more serene, clearer, and above all stronger. We began by talking about the nature of the mind, about how our thoughts are like waves on the ocean. Sometimes those waves are big and powerful, and it seems like they sweep us away uncontrollably. But through the practice of observation and the understanding of impermanence, we learned that we are not those waves, but the vast ocean that contains them. Understanding that every thought, every emotion is fleeting, gives us the freedom to not cling to them, to let them pass without being carried away. This perspective gives us a new way of looking at daily worries, stress, and fears, knowing that they too will pass. Then we delved into the power of mindfulness as a tool to reconnect with the present moment. We talked about how conscious breathing, the ability to do one thing at a time, and the value of creating time for silence can transform our daily experience. Mindfulness reminds us that peace is not something found outside, in objects or circumstances, but something that is nurtured from within, in the way we choose to live each moment. Every time we allow ourselves to return to the present, we are giving the mind a chance to rest, to regain its natural clarity. We also talked about letting go and non-identification with our thoughts. We learned that we are not the stories the mind tells us, that we can observe our thoughts like a spectator watching clouds pass across the sky without feeling obligated to follow them. This is one of the deepest teachings of the Buddha, because it allows us to free ourselves from the burden of expectations, limiting beliefs, and emotions that tie us down. Imagine how liberating it feels when you realize that you don't have to cling to a thought of insecurity, fear, or guilt. You can simply let it go, knowing that your true nature is vaster and freer than any thought. Throughout the journey, we also discovered how daily meditation becomes a fundamental pillar for strengthening the mind. Comparing meditation to a gym for the mind helped us understand that every session, no matter how brief, is a step towards a more serene and stable mind. We talked about samatha meditation to calm the mind and vipassana meditation to see reality as it is, without the filter of our prejudices. And we discovered that patience is key to seeing the fruits of meditation, that just as a seed needs time to germinate, our mind also needs time to transform. Finally, in the previous chapter, we shared practical tips for bringing these teachings into daily life, from conscious breathing as a tool to pause the mind to gratitude as a way to reprogram our focus towards the positive. We reflected on the importance of letting go of what we cannot control and learning to live each moment with an open and flexible mind. And we also talked about how to surround ourselves with inspiring people, how to face criticism calmly, and how to find the value of being ourselves without being swayed by the expectations of others. All of this leads us to a simple but profound truth. Mastering the mind does not mean eliminating all our thoughts or emotions. It means learning to live with them in a wiser, more compassionate, and more serene way. It means discovering that peace is not the absence of problems, but the ability to remain calm even when things do not go as we expect. And that is something we can all cultivate regardless of our circumstances or personal history. I want you to think of this as a journey that is just beginning. What we have shared here are tools, seeds that you can sow in your daily life, and like any garden, you need to water them, care for them, and give them time to grow. Perhaps some days you feel more connected to these teachings, and other days you find it harder. That is normal. It is part of the process. The important thing is that you advance step by step, trusting that every small effort you make to care for your mind, to calm and strengthen it, is building a more serene future for you. Before saying goodbye, I want to invite you to reflect on a final question. What is one small thing you can do today to take care of your mind? Can be something as small as taking a moment to breathe deeply, remembering something you are grateful for, or even taking 5 minutes of silence before going to sleep. Remember that every small gesture counts, and every day is a new opportunity to get a little closer to the peace you are looking for. Now, I would love to hear from you. Which of these tips resonated with you the most? What helped you understand your mind the most? From a Buddhist perspective, leave a comment and share your experience, because what you say may be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. This is a space to share, to learn together, and to support each other on the path to a stronger and more serene mind. And if you feel that this video has provided value to you, if you believe that these teachings can help others, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to receive notifications about new videos. Don't forget to like and share this content with anyone you think it might be useful to. Together, we can create a community of people committed to living in a more conscious, compassionate, and connected way to what truly matters. Thank you for joining me on this journey, for taking the time to explore these teachings with me. I hope you have found something that inspires you, motivates you to keep moving forward, and reminds you that although the path to inner peace may be long, every step you take brings you a little closer. I wish you peace in every breath, strength in every challenge, and wisdom in every moment of stillness. See you in the next video and have a day full of peace and clarity.